I've been coming to the realization that I've been living my life in a constant state of fear, just like a lot of other people. A fear that is initially born out of a pure desire for fulfillment, but is driven by a need for money as a way to achieve that fulfillment, and is perpetuated by this shared belief that me and those around me have. And so it becomes this feedback loop where we're all supporting each other and encouraging each other and telling each other, hey, money will be the solution to your problems. If I flash back to like the start of my life, I think it's fair to say that I've spent all my life up until this moment really in search of three fundamental human needs: safety, belonging, and purpose. The way I've thought about and gone about trying to achieve these three needs has changed over time. As a child and through to my teenage years, the way I thought about them and my understanding of them was pretty simple and clear. For example, safety meant pleasing my parents, since they were the ones that put a roof over my head, put food on the table, um, cared for me and loved me. Belonging meant pleasing my parents as well, but also my friends and my peers, and other people around me, because they were the ones that gave me validation and a sense of being seen and appreciated. Purpose was a little less clear at the time, but I think as a kid and as a teenager, those are like my hobbies, or that was school for me. And so it meant pleasing my educators, my mentors, again, my parents, um, and making them feel like making them feel like I was learning something and improving myself. At that stage in your life, like as a kid through a teenager, it's really normal to just do what you're told. You haven't spent much time in the world, you don't really know much about yourself, and so you trust the advice and you trust the guidance of those around you, and that's what I did. But then all of that really changed once I became an adult and started needing to take care of myself. And that's also normal because now safety was in large part in my own hands. I was the one who was working to pay for my own groceries and pay for gas and pay for my college fees and my rent. Um, Belonging also started to change as well because instead of looking or seeking it in my parents, which was a thing I've been doing for a very long time, in my family members, I now started seeking it more than ever in very specific individuals, in friends, and in large part in a partner. Once you become a teenager and an adult, you start thinking a lot about the concept of family. And that leads me to purpose. Purpose, purpose got replaced with another word, or two other words really, that kind of changed depending on the day or the month. And those words were career and family. And those were the things I thought about when I thought about purpose, was what's my career and what kind of family do I want to have? As I'm sure you're starting to pick up, the lines between those three fundamental needs also started to blur around the time that I became an adult and started taking care of myself. Safety and belonging and purpose all seemed jumbled up in one. A career would provide safety, financial safety for myself, but a career is also intertwined with my purpose. And if I were to seek belonging in a partner, well, I'd need a career and an income to provide for us both in the family we want to raise. So I really started to feel confused and overwhelmed when trying to figure out the best way to move my life forward. And when I looked to my peers and my friends, well, we all felt the same way. I wasn't alone in that struggle and in my confusion. And naturally, as a young and confused person, or people, my friends and I, and everyone around me, even those I didn't know, you could just feel it. We were looking for answers, and everywhere we looked, whether that was on social media, whether that was talking to people on the street or talking to family and friends, everything seemed to come back to this one cheat code, this one hack. Whether it was explicitly said or not, there was this one thing, one common word, one common concept that everything came back to. and it was money. The idea was that with money, security is assured. You can buy anything you want, anything you need. Um, it's not an object. Purpose, on the other hand, could be anything you wanted. Because you had money, you were free to do the things you wanted, um, and explore whatever your interests were. And so purpose could be anything. You weren't constrained to needing to pursue a certain career or a certain degree, regardless of whether you liked it or not. And belonging, well, you could find that in anyone, really, because a person with money attracts people, and with money, you could be wherever you want and meet whoever you want. And so, as a young and impressionable person who's really asking some challenging questions that don't have clear answers, coming across the concept of money as a way to hit all three fundamental needs was a very, very fascinating and tantalizing concept to latch onto. And I did latch onto it, and so did everyone else around me. And this race began. How do I earn as much money in as little time as possible? That race led me to try a lot of different things. I dabbled in investing, crypto, stocks, even NFTs. I co-founded a AI tech startup and did that for a year. After that, I got a corporate tech job, also in AI. And on the side, while doing that, I did side project after side project after side project. All the while, I've been forever fascinated with YouTube and social media. Um, and so I did all these things with the intent of getting money. At the end of the day, even though they were interests for me and they were things that I enjoyed, the core motivator was money. Because if one of these things takes off and gives me money, I can get my safety, my belonging, my purpose. Of course, I didn't understand all this at the time, but looking back, I think it's fair to say that that was my core motivator. So it's been 5 years that I've been on this race, and 5 years is a long time. But at no point in these 5 years did I stop long enough to really and seriously question why I was doing this in the first place. And 5 years in, believe it or not, I forgot exactly what I was doing all this for. It became about the money, and my reasons got so shallow that as soon as I questioned them, they fell apart. No wonder why my side projects kept failing. No wonder why investing in crypto got old. No wonder why my insecurities over social media crippled my ability to actually do anything. It's because my motivators were about something that I just didn't have good reasons. I didn't ask why. And a really good question would be like, why didn't I ask why? Why didn't I slow down to to just question why I was on this journey? But think about it this way. When everyone around me is chasing the exact same thing for the exact same reasons, regardless of how shallow or not, how am I to know any better? I just keep getting reinforced in this, and I'm contributing to the reinforcing and the perpetuating of this race for money. I believed it and and worked at it just as hard as everybody else, and so we were just kind of feeding off each other and fanning that flame and that need for money. And I finally slowed down long enough to take a look at my life, and I realized that I'm the most stressed I've ever been at a point in my life where I have a loving partner and a son, enough money for us to live modestly but comfortably, and a fulfilling and enjoyable job that I find very interesting. I have those three things: safety, belonging, and purpose. But I also realize that there's all these messed up patterns that I've picked up along this 5 year long race that have stopped me from appreciating or even acknowledging and realizing that I've gotten these three things completely. I've been so tunnel visioned on this one thing, money, this race, and I've lost sight of who I am and what's important to me. A couple things became abundantly clear. I mentioned some patterns, and here are some of them. There were these people, specific people on like social media or in my life that I looked to as references for what I should do, as references for what my life should look like. And these people, naturally, were money focused, and some of them were successful, more successful than others, but all of them were on the same race with me. Most of them are like much further ahead, right? So I'm like trying to figure out, how do I be like you? Um, but the wild thing is, no matter what I did, regardless of whether I achieved their or their put their advice into action and it paid off or not, none of that made me any happier. It actually, if anything, just made me more stressed because I I was never to their level, never at the point that they were at. And the sad thing about that is like they don't know me and I don't know them. And so no matter how hard I try, there's nothing personal at all about this relationship. They're not even there to help me, really. Like they can say that they are, but it's not me, they're helping an audience. They're helping a general group of people. Like I'm one specific individual with very specific set of problems, with a very specific way of thinking. And it just didn't click for me. And so no matter what I did, because my purpose was unclear and I just wanted to have money. I wanted to have your money. I wanted to have your life. I wanted to be doing what you're doing and not knowing why, there was never any sense of fulfillment in anything I did to try to be like them. Interestingly, regardless of whether I was stressed or not, somehow along this path, call it call it a blessing or not, um, I found my dream life. I have those three things now: safety, belonging, and purpose. But I've been so distracted on this race, too distracted to realize that, and I haven't appreciated any of those things. One of the interesting things about racing, I used to do track in college, is that for me it's like so fear based. Like I remember being on the track, and when I was running, even if I was the one in front, I was running for my life. The anxiety was just always through the roof. It was why I couldn't really do track for a long time. But it's the same for in this race. Like it's fear driven. The motivators are fears that you're not making enough money and that you won't be able to provide for your family, or fears that you're going to be stuck in this job that you don't like, fears that you won't be able to own a home and you'll be stuck paying rent for forever, fears that your boss or this person or your friends will think badly of you or judge you for because you're not doing something important. And so, again, the solution to all this is money. If you have money, you can be who you want to be. You can do what you want to do. You can go where you want to go. Yeah, you just get lost in it. That fear really starts to blind you. And I mean, think of an animal, right? It's like or think of you when you're really scared. You just don't think straight. You tunnel vision on this fear. How do I solve the thing that's right in front of me? How do I get away from that? Or how do I get to this? And you can't think straight if you're scared. And imagine like being scared for 5 years, or I'd say even longer. For many people it's much longer. If you've been scared for that long, like you lose who you are, you forget who you are, and and you miss out on so much of life. It's still really early days for me, but the deeper that I get into what's really important in my life, and more important than that, why it's important, I I find myself being driven by more substantial, more personal motivators. Indulging my curiosity has been something that has come up in this introspection, and taking the time to learn new things, not because I'm scared of something, but because I'm interested in it and I love it. I've also noticed the value of habits as a way to shape the person that I want to be. I've also been thinking more about goals for a long time, and I think a lot of people do this. My goals were things. They were this car, this house, this job, this income. But I've started to realize that with things, regardless of whether you get them or you don't get them, they don't tell you anything about how to live a better life or how to be a better person, because they're just things. So I've been thinking about, how do I set goals that drive action instead of acquisition? I've also noticed that the most change and progress I found in my life has come from mentors. It's hard to find good mentors, people who are in your life and take the time to teach you valuable lessons. But there's a lot of people out there who are inspirational, and a mentor doesn't necessarily have to be someone that you can talk to, but it can be someone that you can simply look up to and study. And so I've been trying to think and look for people who I can be inspired by and use as a reference to kind of shape myself as well. But then there are those people who are in your life and in your life always. My wife, my in-laws, my parents, certain friends of mine that are such good friends, I'd call them family. And these are the people who are there to pick me up when I'm down. These are the people who tell me I'm wrong when I'm wrong. These are the people who love me and appreciate me and and are genuinely just always there for me. And I may not always have the same job. I may not always live in the same city. I'm going to change. I'm not always going to be the same person. But these people are always going to be there for me. And those are the people I need to prioritize and value. Those are the things I need to prioritize and value because they will always be there. I still get stressed about money, but I mean, let's be real. It's been a 5 year long race for this thing. Um, it's gonna take time for me to stop thinking about it and see the bigger picture. Um, but but the thing I'm trying to do now is make sure that every aspect of my life has some sort of purpose. I don't want to make the same mistake of chasing something without sitting down and asking the question why. Like, why me? Why is this something that I need to do? Um, I don't want to get lost again. It feels good to take a look at my life and know that the things that are here for a reason, are here for a reason that I've decided um, for myself. Or at least that's the idea.